Good.
So we just went through orientation this morning. What did you learn?
I learned about turning in hairpin turns.
I see. And now you're going to go out and what?
Now we're going to go get our bikes all checked out to us and then practice in a parking lot in the rain. It's going to be awesome.
This road leading out of Seefeld toward Innsbruck was just amazing. Every day we head off in this direction for each of our rides. And traveling west down this road, as you look off to the left, coming around some of these corners, you can see down in the valley. And it's almost like being up in an airplane. It's so beautiful. And the contrast between the landscape and the mountains is spectacular. It's really green here, which means, yes, they get quite a bit of rain. But there's a lot of farm production, a lot of cattle, a lot of lettuce growers, and there are some vines, but typically not till you get a little bit more toward Italy. And it's just a spectacular road to travel out on. And our home base in Seefeld, you know, we traveled this way pretty much every day to get to either Germany or some of the better rides within Austria, and then also over to Italy. But I really enjoyed this road, and it looked different depending on which way you were going even. So coming out of the mountains, you had a whole different view and perspective of the area than when the rides were typically over. We'd travel back up, and you know, you're going up into the mountains at that point, obviously, and it just took on a whole nother dimension. But we really enjoyed this trip.
Ah, buddy, yo!
What do you want to say to this group?
Say?
Yeah, what do you want to say?
80 kilometers, Switzerland.
And then?
10 over, it's about 100. And 20 over, it's about 700 euros. Fine. You're on record.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I've been warned.
Crossing over the border from Austria to Switzerland, as we came around this roundabout, and you see the mountains and the valley and the green and the contrast and the clouds hanging up from left to right over the mountains. It was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like this beautiful picture painted right before my eyes. And then as you go a little bit further into the valley, the lake appears. And I was like, oh my goodness, how much better can this road get? And as we rode through a little bit further, you see the cruise ships that come in the summertime, this is a really popular windsurfing area. And this is where all of the Europeans take holiday, and they come and boat and windsurf. And then there's this really, really beautiful cafe just right on the lake shore. And it was coffee time, so everybody was stopping and looking forward to their morning coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I had dessert. And it was really, really good apple strudel too, nice and warm. Which is good because the ride in was a little chilly this morning. And the sun and the dessert and the coffee just kind of warmed us all up. So on a beautiful day traveling up to Germany, Harald, our tour guide, led us to this family-owned restaurant way up in the mountains. We would have never found it if it wasn't for him. It was so far off the beaten path. But they specialized in schnitzel, and man was it ever good.
It was scratching too much, I couldn't listen to it anymore.
Some of the turns are a bit tighter. Now be aware that it's not going like this and the sitting that more turns in it. That it's not going like this and then all of a sudden you have to expect that.
So there seemed to be a lot of these little mini pit stops, but it was really just to regroup and make sure everybody was there, and then to strategize about the next stop and where we're headed. And of course, Harald had to do the Harald Shuffle. So we rode through a lot of these small little towns in Austria, and they were so beautiful and quaint. And a lot of times you couldn't really tell where the farms ended and the towns began. There were occasions where we came across cattle walking right down through the center of town. It was pretty cool. So one of the things we consistently ran into throughout Europe was very aggressive drivers, and they didn't seem to really care if there was traffic coming right at them or not. They would just split the lane and force their way in. But I got him back when we got into town. He was a little bit too wide to make the pass. I went around him. And then later on, he comes screaming back by and passed the entire group. Well, actually pulled in right in front of my wife and split the group again. But we ran into that quite a lot in Europe with aggressive driving.
Hey, we're on a paved trail.
Yeah,
Single track.
yeah. And there's 1 mile without pavement.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it's not gravel. It's just not paved.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And hopefully you do like roads like this.
Oh, yeah. How could you not?
Turn off the brakes, you can listen to the nature.
Hi. How are you?
Yeehaw!
Oh.
Oh. Perfect. Well.
These narrow paved roads were very common throughout all of Austria and were basically put in place for access to all the farms that dotted the hillsides. But as motorcyclists, we really appreciated the simplicity and low traffic that was found just cruising along on these beautiful roads. Simply spectacular. Stelvio Pass is what we all came for, and it has 48 switchbacks going up, 36 switchbacks coming down. It's the second highest pass in Italy. And as you can see from some of the video, the switchbacks were really steep and tight, challenged even the most experienced of our riders. Couldn't really see the summit of Stelvio until you were above tree line. It was covered with thick forest and at low altitude, it was hidden behind the top of the mountain. But it was a really, really wonderful ride to the top. Took us all about 30 plus minutes to get up there, and once you're up there, it was a carnival-like atmosphere with people and cars and cyclists and motorcycles alike. It was so much fun. At this stage of the game, we're only about halfway up, but hang in there, it won't be long and we'll be above tree line, and the views just keep getting better. So as you can see, we had a little bit of a tip over here, but it was funny because she didn't really fall over on her own accord. What happened was she pulled up to the corner and the bike stalled, and it's just tall enough for her that she can't get both feet on the ground at once. And that particular spot was pretty steep and off camber, so you were to put one foot down on one side and there's nothing there. The bike just tipped over. If she could have got it started right away, she would have rode right off. You can see now that we're clearly above tree level and the road just gets steeper and sharper as we go. We got really lucky with our guides. They're so much fun and they understand what people are here for. And this pass was something that we had been looking forward to the entire time. So they kind of gave us a hall pass and let us go. And typically they would ride in front and behind us, but unchaperoned, we were able to go as fast as we want. The camera is sped up here, so we're not going that fast, but you know, we were running along with no restriction for sure. check that out, will ya? Switchback City. So once we got to the summit, it was really fun. Our other group was already up there, and we'd split into 2 groups because of the 15 people in one group was just too many. But they were already up there enjoying their bratwursts and had parked and were lounging in the sun. But once we got up there, got off the bikes after getting parked, we were able to join them and have some food and just kind of take it all in. time to stop and turn the camera around. As we headed back into Seefeld one last time, I couldn't help but feel a little bit sad that our tour was coming to an end. We'd seen some beautiful countryside, met some wonderful people, and sampled some awesome Bavarian food while we were here. And we really had a great time riding with the group. It didn't seem to matter where you were from. If you raised a glass and said Prost or cheers, everybody seemed to know what you were talking about. As far as a tour guide goes, couldn't be any better than Harald and Jens from Edelweiss. We highly recommend taking an Edelweiss tour someday. At first, I was a little skeptical that it was just going to be too generic for a seasoned motorcyclist like myself, but honestly, it was way better than I thought it would be. It exceeded expectations. So for now, that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed the movie, and we'll see you out on the road. Take care.